Go live. I'm a little nervous because this is a big release, but before we get too far into this thing, let's effing grow. Okay, what's up, everybody? Let's do this real quick. Let's do this. Joe, say hi real quick while I bring in our special guest today, Senor Aron Korenblit.
Hello, everybody. And there he is, Aron Korenblit. Welcome, Aron. First guest on the stream.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah,
well, you were the first guest on my stream, so there we go. You're returning the favor, so appreciate it.
And I have to say that a lot of this application that we're going to show off was inspired by Aron. I didn't know much about Airtable. Finsweet didn't use Airtable until we found Aron's stream. So maybe even Aron is the grandfather of this application.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
honored.
out there
That's
and doing a ton in the community with Airtable and Webflow. We met at No Code Conf back in 2019. And kind of all three of us have been for a while just in a different nodes, but kind of interacting and crossing paths. And, you know, Finsweet and Aron got together for his AATT channel. He's got a great YouTube channel where he goes in depth about automating all the things, especially as it relates to Airtable and all the different processes you can do. And so then I came on the Finsweet team. And so it was kind of just interesting to see how that interaction in San Francisco in 2019 led us to here. But we've got a great announcements today. Aron, anything else you want to drop in here about your background? What is your role at Airtable real quick? Let people know exactly what it is that you do here.
Yeah. So yeah, my name is Aron Korenblit. I guess automate all the things, which I started as a dinner to help people automate all the things, you know, way back in 2018, and is now a YouTube channel and a weekly stream. And I'm seeing some familiar faces like Colleen and Penny who enjoy both this stream and your stream. And, you know, the fact that, you know, Joe, you now use Airtable for invoicing and no code tools in general is kind of like what I try to do, right? So try to help people work smarter, not harder, using no code tools. And I think Airtable and Webflow and what you guys have built is amazing. I'm personally thrilled to use it as myself. I'm also thrilled to have the community use this as well. And I think it's just like a perfect mix of two tools that just have so much value. Like Webflow does something very well and Airtable does something very well. So I'm kind of excited to be here to show people how to use it, talk about it. And yeah, excited that we're finally here. So it means a lot, Joe. I'm excited that you built it. That means a lot. So I'm excited you took the idea and actually brought it to production. So I'm excited to show everyone what it is.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to jump out of here. Aron will be back with you in a second. So let's go to this view here. We've got a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get started. We've always got a couple announcements that we like to bring up before we get too deep. So if you're watching this, first things first, subscribe if you're not subscribed to the Finsweet YouTube channel, and like this video. We're not charging for much of the stuff that we do, and so we're asking everyone to pay us with a like. That really helps YouTube prop up the value of this video and push it in front of other people. And so if you could do those things, that'd be great. Other thing is go to the growth page, the growth show, the F and Growth website, and vote for your next topic. We love the kind of the audience interacting. You all have been kind of directing the episodes here. And so go to the website and be sure to cast a vote for what you'd like to see next. And finally, the last update is we've been teasing this little design review show. And so we're going to launch this Thursday. We're going to do a pure pilot of what that looks like. It's called Critique. And here's a little sneak peek.
Check it out.
I really like these scrolling animations, but it really depends who this is for.
Who is this?
What's his name? Jonathan Morin. He's always got a unique flair and creative vibe going, hasn't he?
I don't know that I would
Yeah,
trust that this
yeah.
was real software, you know, so I don't know
Yeah.
if that impacts the conversion rate.
This is a
But
good
it would be
example
60.
for the website to have, scalable fonts.
And I think without these curves, it would look very templated. But with the curves, it adds a little bit of a custom feel. I also agree that there is some finishing to do.
You scroll through, it's all very, very sexy. And then you get to team and contact, and it seems to kind of let it down a little bit.
Open up the sheets
go to
and
voting.
let's take a look at the score. Let's get a score on the
Yeah.
site. The crowd was a little generous, although that score I think carried over from the previous round with a combined score of 6.09. Damn, Sergey threw it down.
Sergey's got
Perfect
straight in with 10s all across the board.
We're gonna automatically disqualify the highest and the lowest scores here. So Sergey's been disqualified. We're gonna do like the Olympic
I didn't know
judges
this
here.
rule.
It's the new rule.
With some Finsweet judges, but we'll eventually start inviting other judges from the Webflow community, and then we're going to invite the community. So you all will have a chance to vote and participate in real time to kind of score the websites as we go through. And so it'll be fun, interactive. It's going to be a blast. And that's kind of the game we're playing. So that's it for announcements. Joe, do you have anything else? Uh-oh, Joe has no audio here. Joe, we lost your mic here.
That's my fault.
Okay.
No, I'm good. No, we're all good,
Okay,
Mike.
okay.
I am excited for the critique show because I think it's going to help a lot of you when you're unsure about some design decisions. A lot of people come to us and say, hey, what can I do to improve my site? What can I do to take it to the next level? A lot of people can come into this show for that reason, to have experts give you feedback on sites you're currently working on or sites you just delivered. And it's going to be a great time. It's going to be another great live show from Finsweet.
Yeah. And people are asking, you will be able to be reviewed. People will be able to sign up as judges and everything. So yeah, Carrie, we will for sure do that. Hi to everyone that's with us. This is the first time we've already crossed 100 viewers, so we haven't even got started, and there's 100 viewers on the show, so share this with a friend. This is a long-awaiting announcement. It's time to get into it. Let's do our obligatory disclaimer, because this seems to be a trend at the beginning of each show. So what's our disclaimer today, Joe?
Okay, disclaimer. First, this app does not cover every Airtable use case. This is not magic. This is going to work for a good amount of use cases. There are a lot of use cases that we're going to use it for at Finsweet, but this is not magic. Please be aware of that. This is not a think of anything that you can imagine and this app will do it. Number two, this app is an Airtable app. Airtable apps are direct inside Airtable and they are reserved for Airtable Pro users. That means that at this time, this application is only for Airtable Pro users. We are, if this is a success, everybody likes this, we're going to then build a version of it off of Airtable apps. But for now, for the foreseeable future, this is for pro users. So be aware of that.
Yep, great
and that's
point.
it. Easy disclaimers.
Yeah, it's super simple. And just know that it's a beta app. You know, it's in early testing phases. This is not a huge public release here. We're just looking for some early validation, get a couple hundred users running through this thing and really figure out, where the holes might be. And so we've already started kind of seeing what we can do with this. And we're excited to see what you all do with this when we put it into everyone's hand. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and intro the tool here. What's the best way, Joe? Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Do we do a little screen share? Talk a little bit about just the intro, and we're going to go right into the why build it and the full intro. Do you want me to do a little screen share on the software here? How would you prefer we handle that setup?
Yeah, let's do a screen share. I'll talk through it.
Okay.
Let's start with a relatable example. And that first relatable example is when you upload a CSV to Webflow CMS. You can map each individual field inside CMS so that your CSV uploads. We're taking the same concepts here, but it's with Airtable. So we have our Airtable fields, we have our Webflow fields, and we're going to connect them. We're going to make one-to-one connections and say, this is the slug, this is the slug. This is the title, this is the title. This is the image, this is the image. And we go through and we drop down select them just like we would do when uploading a CSV to Webflow CMS. And you can go from Airtable to Webflow. So that means managing your content in Airtable, pushing that to Webflow, publishing to Webflow. Or you can have it in Webflow and publish to Airtable. You can sync in one direction or the other. We have a manual publish option, which means that you get to publish it right in Airtable with a publish button, just like you would have in Webflow. And there's also an auto sync feature that we are testing that you'll be able to have this happen automatically. And you have to have Airtable open. You have to have this set as automatic. And every 10 minutes or hour or day, it will go and make sure that these databases are synced from one direction to the other. So that's a nice overview. We're syncing data, we're lining up field by field, and we're allowing you to run your web.
There is a lot of use cases, and I think this is where we can start to bring in. Well, we'll talk a little bit more, but let's go ahead and bring Aron in here, and let's talk a little bit about. Hang on, let me get that up. Oh, he's I can tell he's excited here. He's ready. Aron is ready to dive in here. So let's talk a little bit about the use cases. Aron, when we were doing the testing before, you were talking a little bit about why someone might want to manage Webflow content inside of Airtable, and that may not be obvious to some people. And so can you share some thoughts as to why that might be a valuable thing to do?
Yeah, other than, Airtable is awesome. So and I'm gonna share my website in the chat. So my whole website built by Finsweet is managed in Airtable. But when you look at that website, there's a lot of things that happen before it hits the website. So I run a weekly stream. I need to get a guest. I need to get a title. I need to have a schedule. The endpoint is Webflow. So once that guest is confirmed, once the show is confirmed, once I've got all the details set, I want to put it on my calendar in Webflow, right? But there's so much management that happens before. So when you think about Webflow and my whole workflow is that it's where things end up. But my whole process, right? What Airtable is so great at, like managing guests and status and assets and attachments and all of that work happens in Airtable. So I view Webflow CMS as the endpoint of my process. And so what I needed was something that just takes that information that I already have in my Airtable base and says, okay, well, Webflow is one of the destinations. And so I've hacked together so many, like I've done it in Integromat, I've done it in Zapier, I've done it in scripts, I've done it every single which way. But it was always a pain, right? It was a pain because it's glue, right? That breaks sometimes. There's an edge case I haven't thought of, or it's just like another tool that I need to manage. And so I'm really excited at that idea of I manage my whole process in Airtable, and then I just have one app that just does exactly what I needed to do in Airtable, which is send it to Webflow, because I have other place I want to send it to, right? I need to send it to Twitter. I need to send it to LinkedIn and all this other management. And so you, with Nobull, actually make Webflow a destination, which is what I want it to be. And yeah, there's so many use cases. There's I think testimonials, and I'm happy to talk about any specific ones.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to get into specific use cases here in just a second, and we'll have a little preview. So for those of you in the audience who are wondering, hey, how does it actually work? We're going to show you here in a second. We've got 3 little short videos that will walk you through 3 specific use cases. But before we get too deep, I wanted to give Joe a chance to talk a little bit about why he thought it was important to build this. So Aron just kind of talked about, hey, these are some reasons why it might be important to manage your data and your information in Airtable, your processes in Airtable, and then spit the content out into Webflow. But Joe, how did you come about this? I know we manage a lot of our internal infrastructure inside of Airtable. So there's an internal need for us to want to figure out how do we take the processes and move that into Webflow, because we use a lot of Webflow, but we also use a lot of Airtable. And so what was your thought process going through getting that data back and forth, managing so much of the Finsweet business in Airtable, and then trying to get that to talk and play nicely with Webflow?
Sure. The first reason we bought it is because the first reason we started building it is because we were having trouble staying active with our content. We'd have our content in Airtable, and then we'd have to manually go and update it in Webflow. And we found that sometimes it didn't happen, sometimes it was delayed, sometimes it was incorrect. And then we had mismatched data, and that is not good. Nobody wants that. So how do we fix this? We need an application. And we were going to build this as a freestanding app. That was the original plan. Connor from Unicorn Factory came to us and said, hey, you guys should be building this as an Airtable app, because nobody wants another app. Nobody wants to have another tab open with another application to do your processes. You could just use Zapier for that. So we wanted then to build it directly in Airtable. And I think that's really where the value of this product comes, that if you're an Airtable user, you have your Webflow publish button right next to you. You don't even have to open up Webflow. So this is valuable.
Yeah.
And this is why we made it, because we actually need it at Finsweet. And one of the examples we go through is our community love form. And that was the first thing that was a problem. We had so many testimonials coming in, and we could not stay updated with our Webflow CMS. So we literally stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And now we're going to do it with this app.
It happens a lot. I mean, I think especially as you start, Aaron, you'll know a little bit about this, when you start to want to try to automate things, but automating things often can lead to like a low threshold of quality. And so sometimes you want to curate, you want to add a little process of like review. And so like, it'd be cool to get things dumping into Airtable. In Airtable, it's a lot easier to kind of curate, filter, scrub, you know, whatever, and then just feed the final results, like Aaron was saying, into Webflow. So let's talk a little bit about those. Go ahead, Aaron.
Are you like subtweeting me on this? Like, oh, some people make automations not as great as they should, or you're just kind of talking about my automations that aren't always complete?
No.
That I leave like half completed, and then that just pings the channel. And I think that's one example, right?
I'm talking specifically about like an example that we did, the no code video site. Like I set up all these automations to bring in content, and I'm like, oh, I'll totally like review this site once a week. And now like I just there's so many videos in there, and it takes forever to like go through, especially inside of the Webflow editor, where if I could do this in Airtable and I could just real quick and then send it all in one shot, like it would just be an easier process. It's easier to invite other people to collaborate in that process. And so there's just a lot of reasons why this makes a lot of sense. And so let's talk about our first use case. Joe, you talked about that, love form, the testimonials. So we had one of our developers put together a little video series about some of this. And so these full videos will be available on the site that we released today. But let's take a quick look at what that looks like to connect an Airtable form to Webflow.
Check it out.
We're having an Airtable form here, and whenever a user submits the testimonial, this gets added as a record in our database. But what we want to do here is publish this record as a testimonial on our Webflow site. And this is how we're going to do this. We're going to head over to Airtable, and here under our newly added record, we're going to select active, and we're going to set the publish field to true. All right, and all we have to do now is click publish inside of our Nobull app, and this is gonna publish the changes on our Webflow site. So let's refresh the site, and as we can see, we're having this testimonial here at the top.
Webflow, like what are other good use cases for something like that?
Me?
Anybody? Yeah.
I mean,
Silence. The only thing we have is testimonials.
Right. No. I think like they're like Connor builds freelance websites, right? So or projects, right? Someone submits a project, you want to put it into your member directory, right? So Airtable lets you create a form from any table. So any information that is gathered externally and you want to put on a website kind of becomes possible, right? So when you like, there are businesses built around forms. I like this joke of like every business is ultimately a form plus potentially payment, right? So if that needs to live somewhere, you can then use the fact that it publishes automatically to have that information on your website. So testimonials is one. Others might be new team members. Maybe you have an internal directory, and every time someone joins the company, they're in your Airtable directory of employees, and you want that to be reflected on your internal website on Airtable, on Webflow. So really, any information that is submitted by a form can then be reflected.
Yeah, great. Joe, any other thoughts
We
about
can
form?
also, yeah, let's think about a use case for our new show for critique, that maybe we can use Airtable forms to collect people's websites, and then we can actually use Airtable as a review process. So instead of auto syncing, we can review the submissions, make sure they're legit, and we can manually say, okay, these are good, let's push them to the Webflow site now. And then those are the new videos, that the new websites that we're going to be reviewing that week. So this can also act as a review process. Really nice.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Peter is saying user-generated submissions. Exactly. Life systems and Airtable. I'm not sure what all that means, but yeah, Aaron, people seem to love you. We got a little Aaron awesome, Jeremy in the house. Okay, let's see. Airtable pretty much rewired my brain. Yeah, it is cool. You can build so much functionality in Airtable. I had a friend who was telling me about he wanted to build some app or this, that, the other, and I'm like, no, you don't. You need an Airtable. Like literally just start building an Airtable for your marketplace, start putting the data in there, and whenever you figure out that you have some data or something that's interesting to look at, then you can start like, you know, worrying about putting that on a front end or making it more accessible. But yeah, Airtable is a really cool tool for all of that, as a testament to, you know, we're building tools inside of it. So, okay, next use case, Joe, shall we go over the next use case here or what?
Yeah, let's absolutely do that.
Okay, so the next use case is going to be reorganizing the flow, the page flow based on page views, right? So based on popularity. A lot of people use Integromat, or you use Zapier with Integromat, or some other kind of parabola or some kind of tool to do this. We're going to show you real quick how you can do that natively inside of Nobull.
Check it out.
Here we're going to be sorting blog posts based on popularity. So let's have a look at that. If we expand our base here, you can see that we're having this page view count field. And this is being pulled from Google Analytics every 10 minutes. Also, what's happening every 10 minutes is we're republishing these same blog posts with the updated page view count. So all of this is happening automatically, and our most popular blog posts will always rank at the top. Once we set this up, it just works like clockwork.
Okay, so
Nice.
again, all of some snippets of the documentation here, but this is another cool feature. And can we think of other use cases that you might use the same kind of sorting mechanism for with external data, Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm a little sad because I've literally created videos for each one of these, right? Of like, how do you patch together 4 or 5 tools to do this? And now I'm realizing that I need to like rethink all of my content strategy now that you've automated all of that. That said, you know, when you think of Airtable, again, is this idea of like you have all of your information in one place, and sometimes you need to pull things that update periodically, right? So Google Analytics is one. There's some questions around like e-commerce, maybe like orders, right? Like how many orders, what is our most popular product over the last 12 hours? What have people upvoted, right? Or internally, let's say you have a discussion board and you want to know what the next topics are and let people vote on it, right? You pulling information from elsewhere. And again, it comes back to this idea that Webflow might be where this information should live, right? So Google Analytics being one example, we want our Google Analytics count to be a field in Webflow. But we want our information to be centralized in Airtable, and Nobull will allow you to take that centralization and just push it to Webflow being one destination. Google Analytics is a really good one, right? Because you might want to reorder your blog posts, reorder your content on your page based on this external metric. Whatever that external metric is, you use Airtable to pull it in and then send it to Webflow using Nobull.
Yeah. Joe, any thoughts there about that use case or
Awesome.
anything else that?
Yeah, absolutely. I could see us using this for real-time voting on any of our streams, that we can have the community vote for something, and by the end of the show, we'll have everything synced, everything published, and you can see the live voting every few minutes. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And people in the audience may be wondering, well, how do we get that information from Google Analytics? We're going to be doing a stream on Automate All the Things to show you exactly how to get those numbers in there without other paid products. We'll be using Google Scripts, we'll be using a little bit of Airtable scripting, and we're going to get that data in there. So in the future, we'll announce that. We'll have a full walkthrough of that use case.
Yeah. And one of the other things we're going to start doing is like workshops with this stuff. So Joe and I were talking about doing like an overview of all the Finsweet products, but also like starting workshops. So maybe like a midweek workshop or something like that. So since we're going to have this stream on Tuesdays, we'll have the other stream, the critique show, on Thursdays. Maybe Wednesday, what we could do is like a workshop in between there or something like that, where, you know, we're teaching hands-on. We get some of the, you know, people just building and playing and experimenting with things like this, with the client-first system, with, you know, with all these tools that we're rolling out. So let's take a look at the third and final use case that we're going to cover today as part of this episode, which is essentially getting your data from Webflow into Airtable. So let's say you already have a really complicated site. You have a big site sitting in Webflow and you want to somehow pull that data out into Airtable in a very dynamic way. What's that look like? You can do it with Nobull.
Check it out.
We are in Webflow now, and as you can see, we're having a collection with a lot of fields. We're having all kinds of custom fields here. We're having the rich text field, the image field, multi-image field, video link, URL link, email, phone, number, date and time, switch, color, drop-down file, single reference, and multi-reference. And what we want to do with all of this is migrate this data together with all the collection references and everything to Airtable. So let's head over to Airtable and let's do this using the Nobull app. All right, so we're in Airtable now, and right now what we want to do is make a new connect. And there I'm gonna paste my API key and I'm gonna hit submit. Now this is gonna enable us to select our site here from the dropdown, which I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna choose the Webflow collection from which I wanna migrate the data to Airtable. In this case, it's going to be VF CMS migrations. The next thing I have to do here is map out all the additional fields.
Okay. So there it is. Grab the data in Webflow. So at doing some of this, and Pierre, we'll have to try to zoom into the interface a little bit on those tutorial videos. As they were saying, it's a little hard to see. So in future videos, we'll try to make some of those adjustments. Thanks for the feedback. But what do we think? You know, what other use cases? What's the next step here for people who are watching this? Like, I know we had a couple other use cases, Joe and Aaron. Any thoughts there on that last use case?
Yeah, I think actually when you think about it, most folks here are Webflow users, right? And there might be like, oh, I have like 50 items in my Webflow CMS and I don't know where to start to move my whole process into Airtable. So actually having that pull as your first step. So pull all of my information from my CMS into Airtable as a first step to structuring your information. And then that's going to be like your CMS tag or your single select for like things that are live. And then you can start adding to your process of like, okay, well, let's put things that are in progress in that same table. So if you're unfamiliar with Airtable, a good place to start might be pulling all that information from Webflow into Airtable and then building out your whole process so you truly have one centralized place for all your information, and then you could push information back into Webflow. Another use case, I'm seeing some folks in the chat saying it's a little laggy, so hopefully Raymar and Joe, you can still hear me, but might be things end up in Webflow that don't start in Airtable, and that happens, right? For whatever reason, something either talks to API or whatever ends up in Webflow, you can then pull it back into Airtable, right? So if you need to sync from a specific field, you can do that as well. So those are kind of the big blocks of why I would pull in from Webflow into Airtable.
Yeah. Joe, any thoughts there before we jump into some of the limitations or what you can't do, and then getting into the questions here? We've got some good questions coming in.
Sure. A quick use case not related to that last one, but something that I really want to do with this app. And that is focus a little bit more on lead generation and upselling clients. In the past, we were creating a lot of Webflow landing pages and pages for clients that would be really nice with their name on top of it. We stopped doing that because of the double content entry. So you'd have to go into Webflow, create this page, new item, and done. I would want Airtable. We already have our clients in there. Press a button, create that client's landing page, and then have that link ready to go. You know what the link is because you generate it from the content. So this is the type of stuff that can really take your business to the next level because you're able to do more with less time.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit real quick about limitations and what's coming next, because we're getting a ton of questions here. So let's there's a few limitations that are kind of known, and I know we want to get into your all feedback. There's a ton of great feedback coming in here. So known limitations, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to. We should share the docs.
Oh yeah.
Let's go share the docs in the group here.
Yep.
I'll go share this.
I can pull the
now.
docs
There's two limitations that we are actively working on, and these should be fixed within the next week or so. And that is formula fields and views. As of right now, you cannot have a formula field in Airtable go into Webflow. Obviously, this is super powerful. This is something we are working on, and we just need to do some testing, and within a few weeks, that will be live. Formula support coming. Views. Right now, you connect an entire table to Webflow. What we want to do is have you be able to select a view. So both of these are in development. They're coming soon. Aside from those, we have a list of limitations, and you can see there's only a few no's in there. And they specifically have to do with going from Airtable to Webflow. And the reason that there are no is because of limitations with Webflow's CMS API. These are things that we tried to do, but because of how their API works, it just was not possible to put multi-image, file, and video links into Webflow. So those are the limitations right now. Oh, and e-commerce, I see some comments about e-commerce. Not yet. That is coming as well. That is also in the product roadmap. Remember that this is a beta, so we wanted to get this out sooner than to spend more months on it and delay launch. So we want you to use this. We want to hear your feedback. What's really hurting you? What's really awesome? And we are actively going to work on this. We have somebody dedicated to
process question, and I trust you guys to work through those few things that the community brings up. But I'm really, I'm thrilled, and I'm excited to move so much automation onto Nobull and really use it.
Yeah, great. And I agree. I think that that's not that technical considering some of the questions we're getting. So Joe, any thoughts on what's coming next? And then we'll jump right into the Q&A here.
Yeah, what's coming next? Absolutely. We are working on use cases, examples, clonables, templates. Don't think we're just going to release an app and walk away from it. That's not what we do at Finsweet. We're going to release an app. We're going to put time and resources into videos, tutorials, training, and copy-paste setups that you can use to go and fix some process or create some process for yourself.
How are we releasing this? How are we giving? Oh, okay, I see it. Nobull Airtable. It's in the. Let me pin this comment. Did we share the link? The nobull-airtable.webflow.io. Is that the link we're sending out for people to go ahead and start playing with this? Or
yep, absolutely.
That's great.
And we have clonables and examples from what we went over. So the videos that we reviewed, we have those as templates you can use. You can duplicate in Airtable. We have it as a clonable in Webflow. And we're also going to work on getting this app outside of the Airtable environment. That if you're an Airtable user and you have a pro account, this is how you want to use the app. This is ideal. But for some of you that may not be Airtable Pro users, or for whatever reason you do not want to be managing it in Airtable, we will have a standalone version in the future. So that's coming soon, coming next.
Okay, so now's the time. Let's see. Some people are saying that the stream is buffering. I don't know if that's on our end or on your end, but hopefully I'm showing perfect streaming on my end, so hopefully it's not anything major. But let's get into some of these Q&A. Max Joels was asking something that I wanted to get to here. How will reverting to a Webflow backup impact this app? And it's kind of going into, Aaron, what you were talking about just a second ago about having a key, but what is the workflow for that? Or if there's an issue, Joe, do you want to talk about how that's handled? Aaron, what's the workaround?
I can talk like theoretical. I haven't backed up anything, but I know that when you back up Webflow items, they change the CMS ID, right? So that breaks everything. So you'll need to remap your keys. Now, one thing that I will say is that if you have all of your information in Airtable and it syncs directly to Webflow, Airtable has automated backups. So you can either save specific base screenshots that you can revert to, or Airtable, as you make changes, will automatically save a screenshot if you're making multiple changes. So I actually think this like backup is I understand the fear, right? But Airtable will manage it for you. So that's kind of an advantage of just having everything in one place, especially in Airtable, because it'll automatically back it up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Max. I know I'm always worried when I'm answering Max's questions because Max will follow up on it. So hopefully, I got that right.
Yeah, and hopefully, Joe, any other thoughts about answering that question here?
No, I do not have any more thoughts, but this is something that we need to add to the documentation because that's something that is very specific to Webflow, that when you back up a Webflow site, certain things happen. So we should have a guide for that. Thanks for bringing that up, Max. Yeah,
2 questions here. One from Pierre and one from Passive Investor, both about syncing. So can we trigger a sync in Nobull with a webhook? And also, do I have to keep my browser open while transferring data? So those are kind of 2 data transfer questions that we might want to address.
Yes.
Do you want me to take them? Yes. Joe, do you want to take them?
I'll answer this one. That's on the screen right here. Do I have to keep my browser open while transferring data? And the answer is yes. That if you're doing this auto sync feature and you are going to continuously update this content, your Airtable has to be open for that to happen because it's an Airtable app. And there's a little note on that inside the app that if you switch to the 1 hour sync or the 10-minute sync, it says, hey, you got to keep this open for this to happen.
There you go. So, and then what about with a trigger sync with Nobull from a webhook or some external trigger?
Webhook, my favorite topic. So I can take this one, Joe. So the Airtable has the ability to run things on an external webhook, but that is contained within Airtable automations, right? So when you receive a webhook to an Airtable URL, you can then run an Airtable automation or an Airtable script. If I'm speaking a foreign language, check out my stream. I'm doing one this week with Data Fetcher and next week where we're going to talk about webhooks. But you cannot run an app, right? So you can't say when a webhook received, go ahead and run this specific app in Airtable. That said, if you do receive a webhook and you have your sync every 10 minutes, well, the most someone will wait is that 10 minutes, right? So what you can do is when you receive a webhook, create a record in the Airtable base that syncs to Webflow, and then create that sync every 10 minutes. And that's going to go ahead and sync your site to Webflow after the reception of the webhook, 10 minutes at most.
Yeah.
Some technical stuff there.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully that addressed some of the questions there. Let's see, help with migrating a WordPress blog to Webflow, if at all. Yeah, I guess Eric, there's a
It could
number of
help clean
ways.
your data.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways to export from WordPress into CSV or whatever, and mapping that into Airtable in any kind of way. Like, because the problem still here is like you're still dealing with WordPress, which doesn't have like any kind of standard data architecture. Getting it into Airtable and or Webflow, which both are kind of like using modern, information architecture. And so I don't know, like scrubbing short codes and doing different things like that from WordPress, or you may be able to map the post and the types and everything, but maybe not all the media because of the way that WordPress exports that. So like, I'm not real sure if maybe we could find some WordPress folks that will play and test this, and we can come up with some kind of documentation for some of that, but I'm not really sure.
And Aaron, I think you have to go, if I can say that. I don't want to keep you longer than you can. I know you have to run out here.
Get
We're
out of
past
here.
time.
We're trying to get
Aaron's time.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say, like, this is a huge boon to the community. I really appreciate, Finsweet putting in the time, and I will be selfish here, and I'm just so excited about how much duct tape this is about to save me. Like, there is an inordinate amount of duct tape that goes into running my stream in AATT.io. So I really appreciate that. And just as a final note before I go, I really appreciate everyone joining. If you want to learn Airtable, I have a free course on Airtable. I'm going to drop that in the chat. Again, whole website built by Finsweet, just because they care about the community. They see what the no-code kind of how big this is going to get. So they want it to be a big part of it, and just really appreciate y'all giving so much value to the community, building this app, making it available. And again, for folks watching, if there's anything I can do, Airtable or automation, just generally, you guys know where to find me. I'm going to actually go to an Airtable webinar and teach folks how to move from spreadsheets to Airtable. Yeah. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Finsweet, and appreciate all of y'all joining. And yeah, excited to come back on the stream soon.
For sure. Thanks, Aaron. And we'll go ahead and jump back into our regular get up here. And that was it. Hey, the first time we ever had a guest on the show, but I don't think we're done with the questions and whatnot. So
no.
Let's see. Let's just go back into some of this. Where was it? Do you think it was possible to add? Oh, you know what? Hang on. I got the wrong.
I would love to touch on pricing. Okay, here we have. Do you think there's a possibility to add a multi-video feature? I know it doesn't exist in Webflow, but you think a hack is possible. This one is not related to Nobull Airtable. I would need a lot more information to give any kind of feedback on that. Yeah. What I would recommend doing is just create a new field for each video. That would be my go-to right now. Okay. Or if you want to go a little bit next level, you can create an array, and each of those can have a unique video ID, and then you can pull those once it's on the page. But that is not Nobull Airtable. Yeah. Okay. How are multi-reference fields imported into Airtable if you can import only one CMS collection at a time? There is a process for this. We're going to be first, actually, I'm going to have Rohan come in and answer this question. I don't want to say anything incorrect. Rohan is our in-house product master. He has been touching every product that we're making, and Rohan has the exact flow for this. We're going to be documenting this. It is not a problem. This is something that we have absolutely kept in mind, and you are able to get all of your collections in there properly referenced.
Yeah. Okay. Joe, did you have a comment you wanted to point out here as
Yeah. Let's talk pricing a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to.
Was there a question
I would
about
love
pricing?
to touch on pricing. No, I don't think so, but
okay.
Some of you may be wondering what the pricing is all about. We do have a pricing page on the documentation that we sent to you. So if you go, I'll share this link right here in the chat. We have a write-up here, but I do want to make it clear. Right now, this is a free application because we do not know what to charge yet. Instead of thinking about pricing first, we're thinking about you first. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear how valuable this is. We want to hear what's missing. We want to hear what's working. After that, after we feel that we are outside of the beta, we are going to give everybody a lot of heads up notice, at least 1 month, to say, hey, on this date, we're going to start charging, and these are the plans. We will always have a free plan. Don't know what it's going to be, but there will be a free option. And there, of course, will be a paid option, probably with some more features or with higher usage, that if you are syncing your data, you have a lot of items, it's going to be more expensive to run your account. So that would be a...
This is a good question here. Is it possible to use rich text from Airtable and Webflow with this? Will Neatson is asking.
Yes. It is possible to go back and forth with rich text. Editing that rich text is a different story. So Airtable does not really have a rich text environment. It does a little bit, but it's not like Webflow's rich text where you have this nice block. It's kind of for blog posting. Airtable doesn't have that. So if you're putting from Webflow to Airtable, there are some things that you can do and some things that you can do. This type of stuff will be documented. And please, if you're using this and you have comments or suggestions or things that are specifically not working for you, reach out to us. We want to hear it, and we'll tell you either what you're doing wrong or that that's going to be added to the change log in the future.
Okay. Anything you can add on the form of a standalone concept for Nobull? Will this be hosted by yourself? And if so, where? So just real quick, there's no underscore under Nobull. Let's start with the branding real early.
Yeah.
It's all one word.
Yep. No underscore,
N-O
no capital B.
B-U-L-L. Yep.
All one word, Nobull.
No, how would that work, Joe? He's asking, how would the standalone version, if it's not a Airtable app, how would that work? Where would people get to it? How would that kind of operate?
Our concept is that it's going to be part of our application series, our product series. We are working on several products. This is one of many. We have several teams working on products. We're going to have a single sign-on for all of our products. So what I can imagine is we would have a standalone version where you sign into the single sign-on and you can access all the Finsweet products. And this Nobull application would be one of those standalone products. So you would have the option to either access it inside the Finsweet products or inside Airtable, or both.
Yeah.
But I don't have specifics on that because we're really focusing on the Airtable app for now.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Jeremy, if Nobull can eliminate my need for Integromat and Zapier, I'd gladly pay Finsweet instead. Yeah, that's kind of the hope here, is to get rid of some of the other tools. You may not need to eliminate Zapier altogether or Integromat altogether, but reducing your load on them, eliminating steps to your workflows, and for simple workflows, you will. Right? Like if you don't need I could still see a need for other tools if you're doing really complicated workflows. But for most simple workflows, for most use cases that the average Webflow user is going to need, yeah, I think that this will be able to replace a lot of those other tools. Let's see. Any other questions that you saw in there, Joe, that we should talk to? Let's see. Can I connect the app to multiple Webflow sites and determine which the content is set to?
Yes. Yeah, sure. I don't see why not. Absolutely. Yeah, you can have multiple instances of the Nobull app inside Airtable. You can set up multiple sites, different tables, absolutely. And once views comes out, once we release that views option, I can see that request becoming even more powerful.
Yeah.
That you can have specific views going to specific sites of the same content.
The views is going to be
absolutely.
a powerful tool because right now,
Yeah.
you know, you've got the full table, but like Aron was mentioning, he does a lot of his process work in the back end. So I bet there's a lot of times where he's got a lot of stuff in like a master view, and then, you know, he's doing other things with all these different views. And so to be able to come in and sync just a specific view will be super valuable. So Eric McQuestion was asking, is there a workaround to push the fields that Nobull doesn't currently support to the Webflow CMS, like the video link specifically? Yeah, this is something that I mean, because that's something that I had a hard time too with the no code video, where I would import the videos and the link shows up, but then Webflow doesn't render the embed, so you have to like re-enter it to get the embed to like play through, and I'm like,
yeah, put a space. You put a space and it initiates it. I know. This is a problem with the Webflow CMS API. I wish that there was a better answer for this and I could say, yeah, we're working on it, but there's nothing for us to work on. What I would recommend, if you are in this situation and you need a video, go put it in as plain text or a normal link. Go put an embed block on your page and you have that URL ready to go. And you can go and put a dynamic video on the page without that video field. So there is a workaround. It's not perfect, but you can do it.
yeah, and that's the move, is putting some kind of dynamic embed and pulling that CMS text field as the video URL and having, you know, that embed dynamically that way. So Eric, that should hopefully answer that question for you there. So let's see. Always good to get the Airtable record ID and Webflow CMS so you can sync both way if need be with 2 different IDs. That's a smart play, Pierre. So take the Airtable record ID and create a field for that in the Webflow CMS, so that if your Webflow CMS items get messed up and you need to resync them, you have the Airtable ID, which would not change if you're restoring a Webflow backup. So yeah, great.
Nice
great,
one, Pierre.
Yeah,
like
great catch, Pierre, there. Is this working with e-commerce CMS, with Webflow e-commerce? No.
Not yet.
Is there e-commerce API
It's on the
even
radar.
public yet? Do they have an open API for the e-commerce stuff or no?
I do not know officially. I'm not sure. All I know is that we are considering it. That yes, there is e-commerce, but it's not. Yeah, we're going to do it. I'm on the API. Yes, there's e-commerce. It's on our roadmap. It's a whole different thing though. It's almost like working with a completely other data set. It's not the same as the fields that we have in CMS. So it could almost be seen as a completely different product. But we are keeping an eye on it, absolutely. And if you want e-commerce, let us know. If you're using this and say, hey, I would pay for this for e-commerce, send us a message. If we get enough people saying, hey, e-commerce, we can put more resources into developing that feature.
Yeah. Can we use Nobull to fill click IDs or alt tags?
Yes. If those can be, if those are dynamic in Webflow, sure.
Sure.
Okay. There may be some workarounds you would need if that is not done native in Webflow.
Yeah.
As long as what this app is doing is getting your text into a CMS field. So if you can get that text from the CMS field into alt tag, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're using, which is what I typically do, is like I'll have a summary field or a short description field, and then I map that to the SEO for the meta description. So, or the alt tags. But if you're talking about for images or for other stuff, that would not probably be possible. Let's see. Rohan's asking a good question here. Are we going to hang out and co-work today after the show? Joe, you got a little bit of time?
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah, let's stop it at 1 o'clock exactly.
Yep.
And let's go right into the co-working space. We'll continue this conversation for anybody else that wants to talk about this.
And if we want to get a little hands-on in there, or if we want to like do a little bit more deeper Q&A or dive, that's a great way to do something like that. Here's another good question. How does Nobull handle mismatched data? If WebW records exist in Webflow that's not already, does it skip over it or delete it? It's a good question.
Sorry, I was getting the co-work link ready. Let me see this. How does Nobull handle mismatched data? If it exists, that's not an Airtable. Does it skip over it or delete it? I need a little bit more of an example here. If you can give a real example, that there's a few things that I'm thinking about with this use case. So yeah, Kish, can you ask a specific use case example for this, and even follow that up in the co-work space? I'd be.
Yeah, I was
happy
going to say this would be a good
this.
one for us to dive into the co-work space about,
Yeah.
which is finsweet.com/cowork. If you guys want to just start jumping over into that, we've got a couple people already over there. And so let's see. Pierre also said, don't quote me on that, but remember seeing Webflow e-commerce options in Webflow Integromat module. So you may be with Integromat or some of these other tools to get into you know, the Webflow e-commerce. And if you can introduce that to your Airtable, then you can manage your flows that way. So again, there's all sorts of ways to do this stuff. You know, there's a million different ways to skin the cat, especially when it comes to building software and things like this. I think we're just gonna like let's let that vibe out here. I think that's all we got. We'll jump into the co-work space from here. Unless you got any other thoughts, Joe. Any other comments before we jump out of here?
I'm ready. I'm ready to co-work.
Well, let's do it. That's hey, you know what? There was a lot of moving parts to this video, and I don't think I messed anything up. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back because I feel pretty proud of a good stream today.
Yeah. Let's hold on. Let's properly give Reimar a round of applause here. Everybody just clap in front of your computer. This was a great stream, a great show. We had another guest. We had new motion graphics. We had new videos. Reimar produced and created everything here. So great job. Really nice to see. This show is progressing and progressing every single week. Thank you, everybody.
Shout out to Emmanuel for those little videos that we showed today. So for all those little walkthroughs, again, we'll include those on the links. The Nobull-airtable.webflow.io link is pinned to the top of the live chat replay, and we will share that throughout the comments. And so that's it. With that, we'll send you out with the intro, outro, whatever it is, and we'll see you in the co-working space in just a few minutes.